Sí, okay, maybe. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to remind the public that if you would like to address the school board this evening, there are some yellow papers outside that you're welcome to fill out. Make sure you fill it out prior to getting to open forum and turn it into our administrative assistant, Mary Lou Delgado. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a la junta. Les recuerdo a la audiencia que si gusta venir cuando sea tiempo para hablar, dirigirse a la mesa directiva, tienen que llenar los papeles amarillos que están allá afuera y entregarlos a la asistente administrativa Mary Lou. Gracias. With that being said, I now call this regular Gadsden Independent School District meeting to order for Tuesday, December 17th, and the time is 5:03 p.m. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Mr. Lira,
Present.
Mr. Morales,
Present.
Ms. Murillo,
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Present.
Madam President, we have established quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to our principal, Ms. Gonzalez.
Good evening. We proudly present Grayson Valenzuela and Isabella Gandara that will assist us with the flags.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the New Mexico State flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold on. I got you.
New Mexico flag salute. I salute the flag of the the state of New Mexico and the sheer symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. On behalf of our students, teachers, and staff, it is my great honor to welcome you to Chaparral Elementary. We are truly grateful for your time and commitment to education, and we are excited to share with you the energy, dedication, and accomplishments that define our school community. At CES, we strive every day to create an environment where students can grow academically, socially, and emotionally. Whether through innovative programs, dedicated teachers, or the support of our broader school community, our focus remains on nurturing the potential of every student. Your leadership and vision make so much of what we achieve possible. Today, we hope that you will see firsthand the pride that we take in our school and the bright future that we are building together. Thank you for being here and for the work that you do to support the education and development of our students. Once again, welcome to Chaparral Elementary, and I proudly introduce to you our third graders that have a special presentation under the supervision of Mr. Perkins, our music teacher.
Great job, boys and girls. Okay, I'm going to go ask our Vice President Rodriguez to go ahead and read our mission statement. Should have been somebody else.
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Moving on to Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognition. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. I want to thank Chaparral Elementary, and I believe that was 4th grade, and we really appreciate that performance. Thank you so much, Mr. Perkins. The first item we have is our Gadsden High School Agriculture Mechanics team, Ms. Legareta.
Good afternoon, President Salazar Flores, board members, and Superintendent Dempsey. I'm here this afternoon to showcase the success of our Ag Mechanics program in providing students with the skills and certifications they need to achieve their post-secondary goals. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Ernest Sanchez, our teacher and FFA advisor, to share more details.
Hello, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Mr. Dempsey. My name is Ernest Sanchez from Gadsden High School. I teach the agriculture program, which includes welding. I instruct students how to fabricate, read blueprints, welding symbols, and to learn basic structural steel. We were informed that we can compete in welding in El Paso, but in order to compete, we need to have the students certified. So a technical school from El Paso, Sun City Welding, came down to our shop and worked with the students. Oh, sorry. So I'm gonna have Mr. Nathan Acosta talk about what we did.
Good afternoon, I'm Nathan Acosta, and I have my peers as well, Levi, Isidro, and Andres, and we have some Google slides for you guys. So that's the school we got certified, I think 2 weeks ago? About 2 weeks ago we got certified by Sun City Welding Academy. It was a really nice opportunity for us since it gives us an opportunity to get a job out in the field. And if you guys could go to the next slide. This is the students that got certified, and we have some right here. That's a funny picture. So in that part, the instructors were talking about us, about dangers and safety about welding and about their school. Next. So right there we have Adrian Plata and Manuel Ramos, Levi Rayas and Juan Rios, Isidro Zacarias, Andres Garcilaso, Jesao Sigala, and Davian de Angel. And I got first place in school. I'm Nathan Acosta. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andres Garcilaso, and thank you for having us here, first of all. And all of us are also very excited for the competition that we're gonna have February 14th. And right now we're just getting prepared for everything, practicing, taking our time. And thank you, Sanchez, for helping us making our dreams kind of come true. Getting certified in Sun City was a big honor. And other than that, we're just ready to go to competition. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Legrete. So board members, what I would add to that is that, and just want to emphasize how our welding program has, we always had traditionally a welding program at Gadsden High School, but the quality in which our students are being exposed and the opportunities, we're talking about high wage careers immediately following high school. And it's really where programs should be going and need to be going. And I cannot say enough about Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Legrete and her support of that program. Welding programs, the truth is, are expensive, but you see the result of it. And so it is without a doubt worth the investment. Incredibly proud of these individuals and these young men. And I saw a young lady who participated, and it is a high need skill set that they're going to walk out the doors with. And so I congratulate each one of their hard work. And it's an art. Welding, metal fabrication is an art. It is not something easily done. And I appreciate everybody putting the time and effort into working with these students. Thank you all. Okay, our next item is Alta Vista Early College High School. This is a scholarship that students can be attending the University of Chicago. Ms. Gensler and I think Ms. Angel, our counselor at Alta Vista, is going to present this to us.
Mr. Dempsey, I'm sorry, ma'am. Can we take a picture of the kiddos before they leave? Yeah, come up here.
Ms. Angel will pause for just a second.
Sorry about that, ma'am. Pónganse acá enfrente. Sure. Yeah, véngase.
Get a little bit more in this way. Get a little bit more this way. Yeah.
Right here, eyes open, big smile, and go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right.
Congratulations.
Okay, Ms. Angel.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, President Flores, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. I'm proud to introduce my student, Alexa Chavez. Alexa has been awarded the highly competitive Questbridge National College Match Scholarship. Alexa is one of 25,500 applicants, and only 2,627 students were chosen for this competitive scholarship. Alexa moved to Chaparral Elementary in 5th grade, so she was a student right here in this building. We're coming full circle. She came from Mexico, only speaking Spanish. She tells me she was at a 2nd grade level at that time. So throughout her journey, Alexa's displayed determination and passion for learning. Despite her personal challenges early in life, she found a strong support system through her adoptive parents, Maria Rodriguez and Oscar Rodriguez, whose unwavering love helped pave the way for her success. While a student at Alta Vista Early College High School, Alexa will earn her Associate of Arts and her high school diploma, where she ranks 4th in her class. She is President of Honor Society and also the State of New Mexico BPA President. Alexa will attend the University of Chicago in the fall with all of her tuition, housing, books, and other educational expenses covered by the Questbridge Scholarship. I'm proud to introduce my student, Alexa Chavez.
Good evening, President Flores, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. It is an honor to be here today as a recipient of the Questbridge Scholarship and a future student of the University of Chicago as I now attend Alta Vista Early College High School. This scholarship represents more than an opportunity. It's a responsibility to pursue my dreams and use my experiences to make a meaningful impact. I grew up in Mexicali, Mexico, facing challenges that shaped my resiliency and determination. At the age of 10, my life changed when my uncles, whom I now call my parents of the heart, took me in and gave me the love and stability I needed to thrive. The faith my parents and Questbridge placed in me taught me the value of education and perseverance, lessons I carry with me as I prepare for the next chapter of my life. At the University of Chicago, I plan to study political science and psychology to explore the systems that govern our society and the complexity of the human mind. With this foundation, I hope to address critical issues such as social inequality. The resources and mentorship this scholarship provides will help me develop the skills and knowledge necessary to advocate for vulnerable populations and foster lasting change. However, my ultimate goal is to return to my home, New Mexico, and use my education to create a greater impact in my community. I have seen firsthand the challenges we face. I want to contribute to resolving and preventing these situations by working to empower underserved communities and expand opportunities for those who need them the most. I also plan to use this education to inspire others in New Mexico to pursue their dreams, showing them that with effort, resiliency, and support, they can overcome obstacles. This scholarship is not just for me. It's for the people I want to serve, the change I hope to create one day. I want to thank Questbridge for believing in my potential and giving me this transformative opportunity. I am deeply grateful to my parents, whose sacrifices have inspired me to dream big and persevere. To everyone who has supported me along the way, thank you for being part of my journey. This scholarship is not just a gift, but a mission that I am ready to fully embrace. I am excited to see how I can use this education to empower others and bring hope to my community back home. Thank you so much.
Come up to the, yes, we can-
An extra for one time. Yes, everyone in shot.
Ready? Looking right here. Big smile. Eyes open.
Give me 1 second.
3,
Ready?
2,
1, 2, 3.
right.
Well, that is just amazing. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing, and we're incredibly proud of you. Okay, next item, student activity report. Our student representative is Caleb Ileselio, who is a 10th grader at Chaparral High School.
Hello. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Dempsey, and guests. My name is Caleb Eliserio, and I am the sophomore representative of Chaparral High School. I am glad to inform you that it has been an exciting year for sports at our school. First, I'd like to acknowledge our boys soccer team, which made it to state and performed very well. Their head coach, Aaron Hernandez, was selected as Coach of the Year for New Mexico, for the state of New Mexico. And football has had its best year yet, making it to state for the first time in our school's history. The basketball season is in full swing, as well as wrestling, and girls basketball has been doing well, placing second in their Hatch tournament, and wrestling has had a great start. Mr. Richmond and his esports team took first place at the Estemos Unidos 2024 STEM Festival, and our softball, yearbook, and gardening club helped in community food drives. In other current events, band had 2 students selected for All-State. These 2 students are Alex de la Cruz and Evelyn Montejano. And our welding CTE pathway attended the Sun City Day, where 9 students gained level 1 welding certificates and 6 of the 9 students gained level 2. In the FCCLA competition, we had 4 students place first, 1 student placed in second, and 4 students placed in third. They all did amazing. Our BPA team earned first place in 3 different categories and earned second place in regionals. On Thursday, CHS will host a winter band concert to showcase our students' talent. And our CTE and other clubs hosted a parent night where they showcased our programs, athletics, and clubs, which provided families with the opportunity to learn more about what our school offers. And our CHS Criminal Justice program had a bake sale on December 7th to raise money in order to buy gifts for CHS and CMS students who might not receive a Christmas present. They raised the most money in the 12-year history of the gift drive and were able to buy and wrap 77 gifts for Chaparral students with the help of CHS, NHS, and others. In addition to that, our gardening club, NHS, and student council helped wrap 300 presents for a nonprofit organization called the Thriving Kids Program to give toys to families of young children in need in the Gadsden district areas. Also, tomorrow, Wednesday, December 18th, we will be hosting a senior hangout. And finally, our 8th graders from CMS visited our campus on December 9th and 10th to explore our CTE programs. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. Okay, moving on to our board member reports. I'm going to go ahead and start with Vice President Rodriguez.
Thank you. This weekend, we attended the annual convention over in Albuquerque, and it's always very inspiring to attend these, right? It not only do we bring a lot of information, but I think it validates what we are doing here, right? I think that we are here because we want success from our students, and so hearing and learning new things that we can utilize is always inspiring. So on that, we ended up, well, we weren't able to attend the Estemos Unidos because we were up there, and it was on that same Saturday that we were still part of the convention. But I hear many great things that happened at that festival, so that's a great thing. You know, I always say that there's too many things. There's great things happening in Gadsden, always, right? There's, as we heard, you know, the collaborating, right now he was telling us about how they collaborated with a nonprofit organization, Thriving Kids. I saw those gifts, and it was, I mean, the room was packed with gifts that the students from Chaparral High School wrapped. And you could see where they were really, you know, doing it with pleasure, right? Like they were nicely wrapped. So things of that nature, and then going to seeing students that that received from the welding, what is it, the Sun City Welding Academy, them receiving, you know, being noticed that, hey, they're doing a great job. You know, I see those kids, and those kids, I've known several of them from when they were in elementary. And so seeing how they're excelling and doing something that they're passionate about. That's what we want, right? Give them opportunities to be able to do whatever it is that really inspires them to continue doing and thriving and doing great things. Miss Alexa Chavez, you know, that's, you can see the passion, the love, the dedication that she has put into this. I have faith that she's gonna do great things. And what an honor to have her here, you know, knowing that she was an elementary student here at this school. So that's wonderful. One thing that Gadsden High School also had some artwork that was displayed at the White House. So that's something, you know, our kids are being noticed, you know, the great things that they're doing. So having those displayed at the White House is something that, again, for our kids to see that, hey, you know, that's mine, that I did that artwork. And well, just to end, the performance that we saw here and you all having us here at Chaparral Elementary is greatly appreciated. And I do want to remind all the parents, there's many great things that we as parents can do. You know, we have our students come to the schools and they participate in many things, but we also are given the opportunity as parents. We have those community centers at the schools that are at the 3 high schools, and then there's one at North Valley. It was nice to see that parents received certificates from Abriendo Puertas, you know, a program that they attended. So please join, go to those different programs, workshops that are available for parents. And then, of course, attend the Coffee with the Principal and Coffee with the Superintendent. That's a way to keep engaged in what's happening within your students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez. Moving on to Secretary Murillo.
Good evening, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you to Chaparral Elementary for your hospitality, for the nachos. Thank you to our student rep for being here. All my fellow board members here, they know that I love and I'm all about student self-advocacy, so thank you so much for sitting here and giving us your report. Also, I attended the Sunland Park Christmas Parade, and this is the first year that I see so many students and staff and admin being part of the parade, so it was amazing to see so many groups, and you can see Gadsden being present. We had, instead of using the Sunland Park Police Department, we actually used the law enforcement program from Santa Teresa High School, guiding the parade, starting the parade, and it was really, really nice. And you know, we have the parents were very respectful, even though they saw them as kids, and the ones that were getting a little bit, you know, impatient. We had like other officers, you know, coming in, asking, you know, for the support because this was their first year, so it was really nice to see that. And then congratulations to everybody that participated to the Estemos Unidos Festival and to the sponsors, El Paso Electric, the Lego Education, the Santa Teresa Charitable Foundation, and MSU, and everybody else that I didn't see on the list, so I apologize if I didn't mention your name, but thank you so much because we do appreciate a lot of the sponsorship, and we're always grateful, and we'll always welcome all your donations and all your sponsorship. Also, I attended Santa Teresa Middle School band concert. It was nice to see the collaboration and being hosted by Santa Teresa High School. So I remember when my kids were at the middle school, you know, we were going to the middle school. So now preparing the kids from the middle school and the transition going to the high school is really, really nice to see. They get to see what's coming up. So that was yesterday. And then also, like Ms. Rodriguez said, we attended the annual New Mexico School Board Association. We had an amazing keynote speaker. I mean, that guy, I mean, he really, really inspired me personally. One of the things that he said, and I'm going to, like now that we're here on the board, meeting, I do want to ask the admin and teachers to please reach out to us and let us know something amazing that is happening in your school on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, because I know that at the board meetings we can't bring everybody all the good things, right? But you have us, and we have social media that we can share, because it is true, we really need to brag about our district. We need to brag about our schools and see us as one. Also, one thing that I wanted to mention is that I haven't seen this, so I don't know if this is the first time or in our first time in many years, but this is the first time in many years that they have, for the first time, the School Board Association has 3 representatives from Gadsden. So that's Ms. Rodriguez representing at large. We have Ms. Laura as in the board of directors, and myself and the executive. So I think it's really, really good, because we have now a little bit more a bigger voice, if you want to put it like that. And so I'm really excited for the 3 of us to be able to represent Gadsden. And good luck for the next competition to FFA. I know they left, but good luck for that competition. I've been asking our colleagues, about, here comes the legislative session, and this is the 3rd year that we've been asking, right, to send a group of students. And the more and more you guys bring to us, for me, it's difficult to decide what kind of group do we want to ask for. So that's one thing that I am going to request in the upcoming board meeting, that to really, really think about how do we select, because it is a big group, and it's amazing, and the great things that you guys are doing, because it's you guys, right? And it's the parents, it's the students, it's the staff, and so thank you so much for everything that you guys do for our kids. And last thing, I was invited to be part of it's community leadership at the consulate, and so I was the only one that showed up from New Mexico. Everybody else was from El Paso and from Juarez, so it was really nice to be, and from Western. There was a person from Silver City representing New Mexico, so it was really nice to see, because now we have a little bit more of a voice, that the consulate doesn't just stop at El Paso and then jumps to Silver City or Deming, so that we're also part of the border. And so tomorrow I got invited again to meet the I don't know how to say it in English, but the conciliar, the conciliar of the consulate. So we will be there at 6 in the morning to meet this person. And so I really, like, my goal is to really start pushing, hey, Gadsden, Sunland Park, we're here. And so make sure that we don't jump they don't skip us. And I think we're doing a really, really good job of including Gadsden. And with that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murillo. Moving on to Board Member Lita.
I want to thank Gadsden Elementary for hosting us. I'm sorry, Chaparral Elementary. Just looking at the presentations that we had earlier, it's amazing the talent that we breed in our communities. Looking at the welding team and this young lady, it's people from our community, and it makes us realize how much talent we have. And with a proper team like what you guys are doing, you guys put them in a position where they're gonna succeed in life. Looking at these kids back here on the people on the music, I'm somewhat of a Grinch, and they filled my heart. So it was so nice to see them with performing, and that's pretty much it on my report.
No wonder, Mr. Lita, I hope your heart grew like 3 times. Awesome. Okay, moving on to Board Member Morales.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. First, let me apologize for the last week and a half. I've had some phone issues, which sadly, it's mostly user error. And I know I'm challenged technology when it comes to that. But I think that most of them have been resolved. So I know that I did miss some important phone calls and some text messages, but most of it's been resolved. I want to talk about 2 things. One is STEM Fest that happened here at Gadsden High School this past weekend. I couldn't be there because we were at the conference, which I'm excited to hear about. I heard that it was pretty successful, and they had over 200 participants. And so I'd like to hear soon, an update on how everything went. I was able to send some people from my staff to help support and volunteer. And so we were trying to support it, with other people from the New Mexico Space Grant and from NMSU to get out there and help volunteer. So I look forward to hearing on that. The second thing is regarding the conference that we went to this week, and instead of going into all the different breakout sessions that we went to, I think that we'll probably see the stuff that we went to, because it was very informative, over the next several meetings, which will cover the strategic plan, budgets, the AI policy, and at least communication and transparency. So as we're learning more about this, and we're given a lot of guidance and information, including, which I'm sure will come up later, the public school outlay, capital outlay council, and stuff like that, and other resources for the state. But I look forward to that, and I think it'll be a really productive new year.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. Give me a moment. Dang it. I was going to present the certificates, pero los dejé en el carro. So, oh well. But okay, so let me begin by saying good evening. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and I'd like to also thank, I see some parents that have stuck around. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I see some Chaparral Elementary staff members. Thank you for also sticking around, and I'd like to thank the administration at Chaparral Elementary, Principal Gonzalez, Assistant Principal Mata, and Assistant Principal Herrera. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you so much for hosting us this evening. Moving on to Alexis Chavez, it's wonderful to see, our kids here in Chaparral. I know we have excellent students throughout the district, but being a sometimes you'll hear a Chapawense, a Chaparralian, I also came to this school, and it's awesome to see that our kids in Chaparral, even though we're over the mountain, we have excellence here in my community, and I'm very proud of that. Let me see. I also attended the NMSBA convention this past week, and I forgot the name of the first name of the speaker, but I do remember Kevin Honeycutt, his last name Honeycutt. So he was very inspirational. As educators, there's moments where, where we have our highs and our lows, and I was kind of down here in the lows, and so even as we need inspiration to continue. So I appreciate something that I learned from him. I was trying to look at my pictures. I think it's in the recording that I did, but he had a picture of a kid with a unicorn horn. And so I can identify. I myself was a kid, a unicorn kid, for those of you who might not know. Maybe you think I'm a little bit weird. Okay, maybe I am, but that's what makes us unique. And so he stressed that, don't cut the horn of the unicorns, because, that's what makes people special. And reminded me, Chaparral administrative staff, this is awesome, because this is one of my favorite movies, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and talking about the unicorn kids. How many of us can identify with Hermie the elf, where we don't fit, we belong maybe in the island of the misfit toys? But that's the moral of the movie is overcoming your challenges and embracing your uniqueness as part of the journey of self-discovery. So please, educators, teachers, administrators, all over the district, embrace those unicorns, embrace those Hermie the elves, because we're special too, and we can accomplish great things. Let's see. Congratulations again to the Gadsden High School welding team. And before they mentioned, and before they projected Giselle's face, I quickly saw, there's a female in there, so I heard Ms. Murillo saying girl power. That's awesome to see that in a field that is dominated probably by males, that us as women can also have a part of that. So congratulations to all of them. As Ms. Murillo had mentioned, now on the Board of Directors, there are 3 of us Prior to that, it was me and Mr. Castillo. Mr. Castillo was the representative at large. I went ahead and appointed Ms. Rodriguez to now represent our district at large. I get to serve on that board of directors because I'm currently the vice president for Region 7. And then I also wanted to take the time to congratulate Ms. Murillo. She was nominated and elected at our convention. She is now on the executive board, so she's the secretary treasurer for NMSBA. So congratulations. See, I also wanted, it's been a while, but I know I think Ms. Largareta left, but I wanted to congratulate the Gadsden High School football team. I know we didn't win the state championship, but we're doing awesome. You know, we're getting close and closer. And like Caleb, you mentioned this evening also, congratulations to our Chaparral High School Lobos. We're on the pathway, so one day, you know, we're going to be up there with Gadsden. So that's awesome to see. And I do want to thank the coach. I forget his name. Oh my goodness, because he was a coach at Chaparral Middle School, and then he left us to join the staff of Mr. Facio. Se me fue. But he knows who he is because I know he had a lot to do with our kiddos that are now doing good. Yes, I went blank, Mr. Palomares. So thank you for all of that. But also to our head coach, you're doing a phenomenal job with our Lobos. What else? Then also, congratulations for Gadsden hosting that first Estamos Unidos conference or event that we had. And when we were up there in Albuquerque last week, Mr. Dempsey had mentioned that NMSU wanted the district to move the event to NMSU, and I totally agree with you, Mr. Dempsey, that no, you're not going to take credit NMSU for what Gadsden is doing. So again, thank you for all you do, those of you who were involved, and thank you to Principal Legareta for hosting that event at her campus. I think, and the last thing I want to say is I do want to give my heartfelt condolences to our AFT 4212 president, Dolores Nanez. Her father passed away this weekend. So if you need anything, Ms. Nanez, feel free to give me a call. But I'm sorry for your loss, and may God bless you with peace. With that, I conclude my report. Okay, moving on to item 5 on the agenda. The human resource report is there just for public knowledge. No action is required on behalf of the board. Okay. Moving on to modification of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the agenda as is.
Okay, Vice President Rodriguez has made a motion to accept the agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to item 7, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we accept our regular school board minutes for November 14, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments? Mrs. Murillo?
I just have a question on 8D, the pricing agreement for legal services. Did that change? It's still the same? Because I find last year's, 23, 24.
Ms. Martinez, do you know if that's available online?
If you don't have it, you can just send us an email. I just wanted to see if there was a difference on the changes, prices. That's it. Thank you. That's it.
With that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to open forum. Ms. Delgado, do we have any speakers that would like to address the board this evening?
Madam President, we do.
Okay, we do have one speaker for this evening. I'd like to remind our speaker for this evening the following statement. The board discourages personal attacks upon school personnel or any other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board. Any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during public comment. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that are false and damaging to a person's reputation may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation. The board prohibits personal threats and the use of obscenity. Such speech is not protected and will not be permitted. The board further prohibits disruptive conduct. Disruptive conduct will not be tolerated. Any violations may result in the removal from the premises. Okay. And then just a reminder to our speaker that you do have 5 minutes, and the 5 minutes are posted on our boards, okay? With that being said, oh, and a reminder, we can only listen to you. We cannot respond to your questions or make comments. And then I just remind you that Mr. Dempsey will personally either call you or have one of his leadership team members reach out to you with your concern. Okay, with that being said, go ahead and pass to the podium, Dominga Navarro. And good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, board members, board president Flores, and Superintendent Dempsey. We have met before in the board member meeting in September, and as a quick recap, my name is Dominga Navarro. I am part of the beautiful Chaparral community, and my kids attend the Gadsden School District. First, I want to thank each one of you for choosing to serve on the school board. I recognize being a public servant is not an easy task and comes with a great responsibility. My son, a student in this district, has truly enjoyed his experience here, and we greatly appreciate all the school events and resources you've made available for the students and community. However, I am here today to continue to express my concern about external public school safety lapses within our district. It is not my intention to point the finger at any one person, but simply here to remind everyone in general that when it comes to the safety of our students and employees, I believe it takes an entire community and village to make our schools safer for everyone. I believe we all have a moral and ethical obligation to ensure that our schools are as safe as possible for everyone. As you may or may not have heard, a tragic event occurred yesterday at a school in Wisconsin. My heart and prayers go out to all the families that were affected by this tragic event. Nationwide, these horrific events in our schools serve as a stark reminder to all of us about the importance of prioritizing school safety throughout the entire Gadsden School District. We must remain vigilant and proactive in protecting our students, teachers, and the staff that support our children. Reflecting on this tragedy and considering the time and distance it would take for emergency assistance to reach our campuses, it is deeply unsettling to me as a parent and many other parents as well. I know Mr. Dempsey has been working on safety initiatives, and I urge all board members to support these efforts. Safety should be a collective priority for all of you, and it's vital to collaborate, work with our local authorities, and ensure we have the resources needed to protect our schools from any potential threats. Our teachers and administrators are doing their part, but they can only do so much in an event of an emergency. You have a moral obligation to your community when you all accepted the oath of office to address these potential external security threats. Though we hope it never happens here, we need to prepare for the possibility that tragedies can occur anywhere, including here. It is my understanding that the sheriff is denying our request, particularly due to concerns about their involvement being used as a threat in disciplinary matters. If this is the case, I urge us to find a resolution that ensures all staff receive proper training and have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities. I am more than willing to assist in any way I can, and I know many others in our community feel the same. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you soon and to work together with you or anyone who is willing to put our students and teachers first on this crucial issue. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day and a safe, happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Have a good evening and Merry Christmas to you too. Okay, moving on to our action items. We have two this evening. Our first action item for this evening is Gadsden High School Swimming Pool, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena is going to help us with this item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. Back in September, I brought to you for discussion the fate of the Gadsden High School swimming pool, and I presented options to you, 4 options. You can see on the screen. Just to recap, option 1, and these came from the architect at AKS that made the assessment of the swimming pool. Option 1 was recommended repairs and improvement. That includes the replacement of the pool liner, code requirement updates, fencing, deck repairs, not replacement. And basic building improvements to the pool house facility. If we were to include replacement of the pool deck, it would be about 1.1 million. Without it, 1.0 million. Option 2 was to include all the things listed in option 1, but add improvements needed within 2 to 5 years, which included electrical and lighting upgrades, fire alarm upgrade, restroom remodels, pool improvements, including adding a pool heater, high-rate sand filter, new VFD pumps, etc. 2.1 million, and with the replacement of the pool deck, 2.2 million. One of the things I added, before I forget, last time I did not give you the estimated maintenance costs. Running the pool from the last time we ran it in around right before COVID, 2019, was costing us about $50,000 a year in maintenance cost, about $22,000 in payroll costs, with an estimated revenue of $2,300 when we opened it for 6 weeks in the summer. I listed the same maintenance and costs for option 2. Option 3 is just to repurpose the entire facility into a fitness center for PE and athletics in support of GHS school programs. We would fill in the current pool area, remove associated equipment and fixtures, place new concrete slab, install outdoor athletic surfacing, new shade canopies, repurpose the pool pump building into storage, and complete building refurbishments of the pool house. That is estimated to come out at $928,000 approximately. And then I listed the estimated maintenance costs for both the outdoor area and the building based on the cost per square footage that PSFA recommends. Option number 4, complete swimming pool replacement. This does not address the pool house building at all. It doesn't remodel it or anything. It includes, it's a complete new pool with all the pumps and heaters and everything else for $2.19 million. And again, we would have an annual estimated maintenance costs there to keep it open for 6 weeks. I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Madam President, members of the board, where is the funding for this coming?
If any of the options, sir, it would have to be probably bond, geo bond, or operational. I did check with PSFA. Swimming pools are not eligible for funding. Even if they were, it would have to be a systems-based application. And GHS, and for a system-based application to be funded by PSFA, you have to be in the top 350 of their list. You know, they list the schools every year. Gadsden is at 462 because we've done so many improvements over the last 8 years there. So it would have to come out of GeoBond or operational. And if you remember last board meeting, I presented all the construction projects and the pending ones where we're like $11 million short to do CMS, the kitchen boilers, the GMS GHS sewage project, and the, oh gosh, I can't remember, there was one more. And we're expected to get about 9.5 million from our next GEO bond payment next year. Okay.
What's the time frame for this?
The time frame for any of the options, it would we would have to go into design. So I'm estimating about 9 months to a year for design, and then to put it out for bid and construction, depending on what it is, it would be probably a year.
In your department is recommending option 3?
My department, in collaboration with GHS, is recommending option 3, just because that would be their ideal use of the facility.
Because they want to utilize it for?
Football and locker rooms and like an outdoor weight room, and also an outdoor area where they could have cheerleading practice, other programs that can practice under those shade structures.
And so would the Public School Facilities Authority, and then would they be able to fund, not say the swimming pool, but the other facilities to do this?
They we would have to put in a systems-based application, like to do the building envelope and the remodeling of the building. But again, they probably wouldn't fund it because Gadsden is at 462, and you have to be at 350 or above for, on their list that they put out every year. So it's not likely that they would fund it. They would fund, and they would fund the demolition, any demolition we would do, they would fund at 100%, because we've done 4 demolition projects and they funded them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? I have some questions.
Of course.
So, the purpose of the, I guess the pool house where the restrooms are and stuff like that.
Yes, ma'am.
We're currently using it as like a field house for the visiting teams, correct? For football.
For the visiting teams, yes, ma'am.
And just for football and soccer, the outside sports, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Whatever the school chooses to use it for, yes.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm looking at, just in looking at option 1, for the pool house, the only thing that's going to be done to it would be basic improvements, which would be floor tiles, ceiling, roof, and paint, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing else will be added, so we're still stuck with, well, I've only seen, I think, I don't know if it was the boys' side or the girls' side.
I think we're in the boys' side.
When that last time we were there?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is only has like 3 restrooms. And then you mentioned about lockers.
Yes.
I didn't see any lockers, so lockers would be installed or?
No, that would be under option 3, where we would refurbish the whole thing.
Okay. So then option 3 does have complete refurbishing, including installation of lockers.
Yes, ma'am.
But no additional restrooms.
Not additional stalls per se, but we would replace what's there and modernize the whole thing, remodel.
So like
but
brand
no
new
additional
stalls. Okay. What else? I think that's it for me. Does anybody have any other? Mr. Morales?
I do, pardon me. Who has, within the administration, who has jurisdiction over the pool? Is that the athletics department?
It's kind of a partnership because, I mean, facilities maintains it, right? We would do that, the regular maintenance, cleaning, maintenance, pump maintenance and everything. The 6 weeks that it's open, it would, athletics would hire the lifeguards, the instructor, the pool manager basically, and they would run it for 6 weeks, and we still had to have a pool operator present for those 6 weeks as well.
Have we had a strong opinion from the residents, the area, either for or against the pool, or is it like a huge topic? Because I know Gadsden has had that pool for many years, and maybe it's kind of like something that they are pride on. What's the response or what's the feedback that you guys have been getting from the community?
Personally, I haven't had any feedback. I don't know if Mr. Dempsey, I think some of the board members might have, the other board members like Ms. Rodriguez. I don't know how much of a feedback we get. I mean, I can tell you that probably by our last counts in the summer, I think it was, Karen, do you remember how many people used the pool when it was open? You did that. I did.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Dempsey, our numbers over the summer had decreased, but mostly because our schedule changed. When we go to school, when we do Jump Start, when we do all the other programs. And this actually started much before COVID. Honestly, to be honest with you, it started when we started, and I'm gonna be very careful. K+3, I think it started. K3 plus, I apologize for that, but our kids started being pulled to a lot of different things. And then it came K6 plus, and then we added Jump Start, and then our calendar got shortened. So we had a solid little group that came, but it was a small group, probably max 30 people a day on a good day. Yeah, and they loved it. I don't want to say they didn't love it, but it really had shrunk. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Madam President. So this conversation has been happening for quite some time. I think I wasn't even part of the board when it initially started. It was in October. I remember it was October. I don't remember the exact date, but so it is a conversation that has continued for several years now. Almost 5 years, I guess, maybe 6 years. But one of the things that I feel is, I know last time that when it was presented, we were informed that there was a survey done, there was conversation between staff, and one of my questions was it just like the PE coaches, right, or people? And in reality, I guess we were told no, it was other staff that were involved with this, right? So that's a great thing. I believe that that's what the response was. But again, I guess what Mr. Lira was asking, I think that it makes sense that perhaps, and it just seems like the conversation has taken too long. But at the same time, we want to make a wise decision, right? And we want to make sure that the community is also part of this and knowing exactly what is happening. So now that survey was given, or that conversation happened within the campus, I do feel that we still need to have conversation with the community. I know back then, like several years ago, conversation really wasn't, it was more social media than anything. I think that's where the conversation was happening. But we need to inform them what it is that's happening and why, what we're seeing here. And obviously, they're hearing this. The parents that are interested in this are listening to these meetings. But the reality is, well, they can hear, but where's their voice? So I think that we still need to do something with the community. And I'm not just talking about parents. And I hear that, participation might not be as high as we expected, but at least give them an opportunity to express their voice and what it is that we want. And I don't know if it affects anything with what the purpose of this would be for option 3, right? Like, is it, if we prolong it more, is it gonna affect? But I feel the voice of the community is really, really necessary.
Madam President.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is, maybe somebody can answer this for me, but I have heard that there was a petition that was presented to the board, but I've never seen it. So I'd like to see it.
I'm not sure, Board President. Okay, thanks. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Morales, Mr. Dempsey. I do remember a petition on social media, but I'm not sure if I don't know if it actually came to the board. I didn't see the one myself. And
I would have to agree that I don't think it ever came formally to us.
Right.
And I'm gonna piggyback on what Ms. Rodriguez said. I think input from the community is crucial to, at least for myself and her, and maybe for my other fellow board members in making a decision. The other thing is, these are comments or / questions. I don't expect an answer this evening. But as far as, if I was to go with option 2, that's like a lot of money. And my question is, if we were, to do these whole upgrades, do we have a plan? Because now I'm seeing that we would be adding with option 2 a pool heater. So then that means we can use it during the winter. So have we thought ahead? Because, if I'm gonna vote for this, I'm not saying that I am, but if I was to vote for this, what is the plan to use this facility in the winter? That now that there's a heater involved, because I know prior to that, a reason was we can only use it in the summer. And so have we thought of that, because that's a lot of money, and they were going to install it for, so that's, I guess, my comments. Last question. Don't expect an answer this evening, but just food for thought. Anybody else has a comment question? Mrs. Murillo.
So I think we've had a lot of conversations about this. I had 3 people from the community calling and pretty much being disappointed of, you know, like the pool. There is, it's out there. If you Google it, it will come up. And I think it was like about 300 responses for the swimming pool. But then after this, that's when I got those phone calls, you know, saying, okay, well, we're really big with athletics, so, you know, we want to make sure that now you like advocate for us. So I am going to propose that we accept option 3, just for the sake of these 3 individuals that make sure that their voice is being heard. So make a motion that we approve option 3.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. So we're going to take a vote. Mr. Leda, did you have a comment?
Can you ask Mr. Dempsey a question before that? Because I don't think we got the answer that Ms. Rodriguez was asking regarding what hinders if we postpone this for like a meeting or two. Because she asked that question, but we didn't get that answer. So what happens?
Help me again. Can you?
So the question was, if we're able to push it to get more public input or feedback, let's say a survey through Google or something more formal, where we're able to just put, does the community want the pool or not? And it takes us a month. Does it hinder for us pushing this decision today to February, I guess it would, or March maybe?
No, Madam President, board members.
Or do we have to vote for funding purposes?
No, Madam President, board members, there's no effect on postponing that decision if you feel like you need to. It has been a conversation that's been gone on for a long time, and I think we're at a point to say we've got to figure out what we're going to do because it's only deteriorating more and more, and somewhere we're going to get into a bigger issue. And so if we postpone till February, that's a doable thing if that's the will of the board.
Okay. That being said, there's a motion to accept option 3. So we're going to go and take a vote. And roll call. Okay, so I'm going to start with Miss, oh, sorry, go ahead, Miss Delgado, sorry about that.
Ms. Flores?
No.
Mr. Lira?
No.
Mr. Morales?
No.
Ms. Murillo? Ms. Rodriguez?
No. Okay, so it's 4-1. So we're going to move forward, but thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
We'll continue discussion. And yes, you know, we do.
If I may ask?
Yes.
Because Ms. Legarreta isn't present. When I'm going to ask for her help in surveying the community, but do you want it to be just the Gadsden High School community, or are you asking for us to survey the entire community of Gadsden? Because
What do we think?
Gadsden High School? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, the community, because I mean, I think being it would be the only pool in our district, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's kids that potentially would want to jump on athletic training or aquatic training for that matter. So I think we just get a better feedback of what the community truly needs.
Okay, so the entire Gadsden district student community, or do you want the parents as well?
I myself would want to see the parents.
Parents and students.
Madam President, I think that it would be the community in general. And again, I do not want to prolong it anymore, but I think it's only fair for their voice to be heard. So as soon as we get this done, you know, get the input from them, then we can proceed. That way, it's a well-rounded, educated decision, and not just, you know, inclining to one area. But if we could get that going ASAP, that would be wonderful. And yes, I believe the whole community, because, you know, parents are the ones that take the kids are the ones that might be participating, so in general, and not only the ones that, it's all stakeholders that from
Yes.
our communities in
Thank you.
Gadsden District.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do you want us to provide the community the 4 options, or just in general ask the question of, do they want to preserve the Gadsden High School swimming pool?
I think that's a good idea, is to present to them the 4 options.
Okay.
Any other recommendations, suggestions? No?
Madam President, just as you're proceeding with this, I think this is a good approach. And as you're working through survey results, I just always remind the board to be thoughtful. When you survey a community, what my recommendation is, follow what the community tells you. I've seen situations where a survey occurs, and then for other reasons, the board chooses to not follow the community survey, and there are typically some hard feelings in that situation. So I just want you to, this is something that's very doable. I think it's a very reasonable approach, but we'll be presenting those, and the board then will have to make a decision whether they're going to follow those or not.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, I do have one more question. Ms. Flores, you mentioned, one of the options is the pool heater and how it would be used.
Correct.
And I think that I'm going to get with Principal Legareta, because she really needs to lead I don't have, the instructional or she would have to develop a program of either aquatic PE or anything else that needs to be. So I will get with her, and I will I'll have her bring that plan to the next presentation, along with the survey results. Okay.
Can I add one more last comment? And this is just in the survey. I don't know how we can do it, Mr. Dempsey, to put some checks and balances. I did see, and there's some things that you just have to let go. There was a survey going around in Santa Teresa Middle School or high school for uniforms, and that happened maybe about a month ago. So I saw one of the parents posting it on her Facebook, and he's like, "Oh, even if you're from El Paso or whatnot, just fill this form out." And then I'm like, okay, why do people from El Paso but her friends, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna help you out." So then it just that type of system, you have people voting from El Paso that have zero interest, zero stake, and that happened because I saw it. So just food for thought.
Thank you, sir.
So I appreciate that comment, and thank you so much. We'll try to work through some of those pieces. You can't prevent all of that, but there are some tools that you can utilize to screen that a little bit. And so we'll work through that a little bit, try to. But good point, very good point.
I'm gonna make another comment, and tell me if you guys don't want to go there. Because it's just in my head, I'm like, technically there is an option 5. That technically option 5 would be demolition, because you just finished saying that they would fund 100%.
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that it gives us a space for the future, for something to happen there in the future. Because part of me also, it's hard. It's a hard decision because the facilities are old. Even if we do go with any of these options, I want to be proud to, that the hosting team has good facilities too that we can also use. And so it's just kind of like we're band-aiding it. So technically there is an option 5. I don't know if you guys would want to put that on there. What do we think?
I disagree with option 5. Well, we need to utilize it. We need to make sure that the student in the communities, that they have access to opportunity. It's just demolition and having empty space. No.
Comment?
No, my comment was more on the area that we, I keep thinking about what Mr. Dempsey stated, that when the parents are surveyed, but we need to make sure, that this information is understood, right? It's not, there's a lot of information here, and understanding that it's not because we don't want to pull, or it's not, or the district, it's not that the district doesn't want to pull, but there's things behind this, right? And there's priorities. So I
Yes.
think it's a matter of educating our community and them understanding what the pros and cons are of each of these options. So the reality is that, yes, we can see numbers, but if we don't understand what the benefit would be, what the great benefit would be, seeing one thing rather than the other one, you know, looking at all those different angles. So I think that, you know, getting that information out there, making it clear to them, that's what is necessary in order to make wise decisions, right? And
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I think our parents are pretty involved in wanting the best for our kids. So that's one of the things that's where we need to look at what it is that would be best, what work best for them, and what would benefit them more.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
And I can tell you, like, for option one would still, because it doesn't add the pool heater, that would mean that it's only would be open in the summer, 6 weeks, right? So I can add that in there, just to make sure that they understand that. And then option 2 and 4, adding the pool heater does keep it open year-round, and the opportunity for other swimming programs to be developed during the day.
Tell me if you want, okay, so no, option 5, here loud and clear. Would we be able to add this information, Mr. Dempsey? What I'm about to ask is, I know the numbers have been mentioned before, I don't recall, but to inform the community how much it costs for maintenance for option 1 without a heater. Okay. And, you know, maintenance for 1 with the heater. And then my last question, I'll conclude with this. I don't expect an answer this evening if you don't have it, but would like an answer in the future. What have we been doing since we've been saving the maintenance costs because the pool does not have water right now?
Yes,
So what have we been doing with that money?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that it's probably distributed on maintaining everything else. In the district, I couldn't tell you exactly where the money has gone to. I mean, it's created some additional monies in our maintenance fund budget, correct? But there's always things that come up that we need to address. I mean, it's constant, you know, without having to cut one thing, you know, to do another. But if you want, I can provide more specific information. I don't have the complete answer right now.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Okay.
So, okay. Any further questions, comments?
One
Mr.
last
Yu?
question for Mr. Dempsey. Mr. Dempsey, has this pool ever been used like for summer programs for kids to go and utilize it on, like, I guess in the summer, like the students, or is that a possibility for like the community kids, obviously students that go and use it on the summer to enjoy themselves?
Madam President, board members, the 6-week summer program really was the only major use of the pool, which was an opportunity in the summer for students to just come swim. Like Ms. Nugis had mentioned, that reduced significantly when we expanded our summer programs, which was K3+, K6+, and now Jumpstart. And so the time in which we could keep it open and available, we didn't want to compete with our own programs. So we kept adjusting the schedule so that students could attend Jumpstart and then also be able to go swim. And so that was the use. The primary use of it was summer programs.
Thank you. I can address Mr. Lita's question as well. You know, and I mentioned this before when the last time, that pool did used to be used for swimming lessons. And there was a bus that would travel around the different communities and take people out to actually learn how to swim. And so, you know, that's where my entire family learned how to swim. You know.
Thank you very much for entertaining our questions. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on to action item 10B, redistricting project, consideration and possible approval of new district superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, we have a presentation regarding the redistricting. Just for clarity, we're not talking about attendance zones that sometimes gets parents a little tripped up and community members. We're talking about the area that you represent within your community that would be eligible to vote for you during an election cycle. And so, Mr. Snowdy, if you'll click on the current GISD board districts, this will just be a review for each of you, or it should be. Those are our current districts. We'll let him adjust that a little bit. Understanding that District 1 in Sunland Park, the only direction it can go is north. And so that creates movement. Now, again, just for a quick review, we're doing this because our goal is to balance the number of eligible voters in each district. And so Chaparral and ST have the most growth in our district, okay? And so those are our current districts. Mr. Snowdy, if you go to option 1. It'll be the back to the presentation, and then that option 1? Okay. Option 1, you'll see, and if we can adjust that a little bit. There you go. That would, District 1 is always going to, in any of these plans, going to move north. It has to. The major adjustment for this one is District 3, which I believe that's Ms. Rodriguez's current district. The northern boundary would move across, basically, to the Chaparral area, and then there would be adjustments of the others just to balance the voters. That's the big jump to balance this, okay? Again, District 3, northern boundary would have the biggest change, and it would move across to represent portions of Chaparral. Mr. Snowdy, if you can go to concept 2. I'll get it readjusted. Concept 2, again, District 1 moves north. District 3 and District 4 have an adjustment to move over into Chaparral and again balance that. Now, when I say all this, District 2 is moving in each one of these, but it's slightly moving. It's not as significant as District 3 and District 4. And again, the biggest growth is District 5, Chaparral, and we're trying to use that to balance it. Concept 3. Okay, concept 3, again, another little bit of a balance. 3 and 4 have the most change to them, and again, stretching over to Chaparral with a little bit of different in the northern boundaries of District 4. And again, we've had, just to review, multiple community meetings, one in each area to give community members an opportunity, and we have had this on multiple meetings to try to discuss and see which would be best. I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Dempsey, or are we ready to vote?
I have
Mr.
a
Motors?
question. When would we select a map today? When would it take? When would it be in effect?
Great question, Madam President, board members. That would go into effect probably as soon as we get that submitted officially to the vendor. Probably within just a few weeks, the process would be done. It's not going to have a major impact until we have an election, which is next November, but we want to be well prepared, and I also would strongly recommend that we advertise this so that voters know, because what's going to happen in any of these three, some people are going to vote in one district, and next time they're going to vote in a different district. And that gives us a little bit of time to notify them that there's been a change.
When you say that it'll take effect, does that mean that once it is approved and sent to whoever it needs to be sent to, that we would now be operating in our new districts, or does that start during the new election?
No, you would begin, once it's approved by you and filed, it has to be filed with the county clerk, it's official.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's any further discussion, comments, questions, concerns, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept concept 1.
Okay, Mr. Morales has made a motion to accept concept 1.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lira. So I'm going to ask for a roll call. Ms. Delgado.
Ms. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Lira?
Aye.
Ms. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Ms. Murillo? Ms. Rodriguez?
No.
Okay, so that's 4-1. So we have accepted concept 1, Superintendent Dempsey.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion items for this evening. Our first one is Santa Teresa Elementary uniform request. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, interesting that a little bit of this conversation came up earlier. We have Ms. Word here who's going to help us. I want to emphasize that there, some of our elementary schools have a uniform policy. We have a Gadsden ISD policy on it, and there is a note, I would call it a note, in page 38 of the student handbook. Ms. Word has followed that, and this was presented to our, mind you, by a group of parents. So, Ms. Word.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am proud to share that great things are happening in Santa Teresa Elementary. Our school continues to grow as a community and engage students, supportive families, and dedicated staff, and I want to highlight the important initiatives that emerged directly for our parents. During Coffee with the Principal meeting, a group of parents shared their thoughts and concerns regarding school uniform. Especially, they asked why Santa Teresa Elementary does not currently implement uniform policy. This discussion sparked meaningful dialogue among their attendants, and parents expressed a strong interest in exploring this idea further. I assured them that, as with any significant decision, the voice of all the stakeholders will be heard. This includes gathering input from parents, teachers, and staff to determine the perspectives and preference. Together, we agree that a consensus-driven process will allow us to make an informed decision that best serves our school and community. And that is how this initiative began. I am proud of the proactive engagement of the leadership of our parents have shown initiating this conversation. It's a reflection of their commitment to creating a positive and productive environment for our students. So let me go over the survey that we put. First of all, it was posted during a remind message, and it was posted twice. It was also posted on our website, so everybody can go and vote there. And this was the results. We started with the first question saying, first of all, we wanted to know what's the role in Santa Teresa Elementary. And 92% were parents. Students were only 3 students, and teachers and staff were allowed 11 teachers. And there also we have a lot of teachers that are parents. So the second chart tells you the second question. The second question said, do you believe that the school uniform will have a positive impact in our school environment? 81% said, and to tell you, we received 255 responses. We have 489 students, so it's more than half of our population. This, they agree, 60% disagree, and then the rest say maybe. The next question says, would you support a uniform policy if we were implemented at our school? 80% say yes, 14% said they are open to it, and 15.7%, there was 40 parents out of the 255 said absolutely not. So most of the next question was, what benefits do you see implementing a school uniform policy? 174 people said that enhances the school spirit and unity. 182 people says that reduces the peer pressure related to clothing. 176 people said that reduces the clothing cost. And 149 creates a safer school environment. Then the next question says, if uniforms were to be implemented, what style would you prefer? 58% said polo shirts and slacks. 28% said school branded t-shirts and jeans. And then some of the comments that the parents left behind, I'm giving you some of the comments that stand out, most of it. One says that I believe that uniforms will be nicer for our children, but I might also be unaffordable and a little difficult to some parents with limited incomes to provide uniforms and as well as additional daily clothing. Another one says, I don't agree with the uniform policy because it takes away the freedom of the kids to express themselves. Another parent said, pienso que es una buena decisión de implementar uniformes. I highly support uniforms. Dress code is not being followed by some students. It is less expensive for parents. Easy kids to dress themselves, bring uniformity to the school structure. Another parent says, I have 3 kids in Santa Teresa Elementary. That will help me a lot. Excellent idea. We need uniforms. Yes to uniforms. Con uniforme es más fácil identificar a los estudiantes. Creo que es un objetivo que faltaba en la escuela. Ojalá se realizara. I believe this is for the safety or identifying and securing the children at school. So those are basically some of the comments. We have a lot more, but this is what the community responded. So if you want some more data or that you want, I can invite the parents to come and talk to you because this initiative came from the parents. It didn't come from me. When I started Santa Teresa, said, no, they don't want uniforms. So I always assume. But now that the parents are bringing it up, that's why I started asking. And I was shocked to tell you the truth, when they started responding, we were like, oh, I guess out of 255, only 40 parents said absolutely not. The rest are open to the idea. So I don't know you have any questions.
Ms. Murillo.
Just a comment. I came to Santa Teresa community 7 years ago, and one of the things that I was told was that, right, that they wanted uniforms, and I thought my kid was gonna go to Santa Teresa Elementary. He ended up going to La Unión. But this last 3 years that I've been around, I've seen some of these kids going to after-school programs or to daycares, and physically, I see the need without the uniforms. And so I can see why some of the parents, you can see the struggles. It's very, very obvious. So I want to thank you because this is something that you're right. You know, the parents, the community that you have, they respect you, and you can tell now that they're very vocal and active in your school. And so I really thank you for that, and I really hope that you follow their wishes. My only comment suggestion will be like give them time, you know, because it is a big transition for them to purchase the uniforms. You know, if you're going to implement this next school year, maybe like telling them next month. And you know that we have the Santa Teresa Sharp Foundation. We have many organizations that are willing to help. So maybe even offering, you know, like, hey, we have these organizations, they can help you with uniforms, backpacks, because I mean, that's one of the schools that they were not helping with uniforms because that was not one of the options. So maybe now if the parents, they see that they have, like that parent, 3 kids, right, we can help with that. And I'm not saying we as a board, but I'm saying like we as individuals.
Mr. Morales.
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a question for Mr. Dempsey. I don't know if you know this or not, but how many of our elementary schools are required to wear school uniforms? And why the discrepancy?
Madam President, board members, here what I would share with you is as you read through the policy, it really leaves it to the campus to try to serve those communities. So I like this grassroots effort, if you will, of parents coming. I think they're probably, we haven't changed, no new schools have jumped on to uniforms in my almost 8 years now here. This is the first one. I would say the majority of our elementaries are. I can get an exact number to you. I don't know those right off the top of my head, but more than half of our elementaries already have uniforms in place.
And a follow-up question. Again, this you probably don't know offhand, but I would like to know if there's a difference in behavior or the impact that it has between those that are required and those that are not required.
Okay, Madam President, board members, there's probably actually some research out there that I'll be happy to share.
Mrs. Ordez.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for having that approach, right, and listening to what the parents want. I think that that's the again, having them understand the benefits of it, right? I know that I was part of one of the elementaries when the parents were wanting that. I was actually the president of the PT. It wasn't a PTO. And so listening to what and having meetings, I think that that's what really helped that school, that we held meetings to let them know what it would look like, right? Even providing them what the cost would look like versus, what traditional, any clothes that they want to wear. So having them well informed on what it is, but more than anything, thank you for listening, and just continue with that, and it is something that if you give them enough information, people will see that the benefit or not. I mean, the decision will end up being the communities, I think, but I appreciate that.
And Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, one of the things that came out because the parents that didn't want it to start calling, and one of the things that we were telling, now we have a very close relationship with the Santa Teresa Charitable Foundation, and then we always lose out when they're doing the donations, like you said, for the uniforms, and they're willing to partnership with us to help support families. And that's another thing that I think it will help the parents, because in our community in Santa Teresa, we have parents that are very, have a lot of the social status, and then we have others that are very in need. So this will like level the playing field, that the kids are not going to be worrying about if I'm wearing the trendy clothes. They're going to focus on academics. That's the important thing. So.
Just one thought. I'm a free bird. I mean, any restrictions on me give me anxiety. So that's me. Just putting restrictions on people and these kids. But obviously, I do see the benefit. Are you planning to maybe like on Fridays allowing them to be like, hey, you know what? Be yourself. And then they're in middle school. Maybe they're transitioning to high school, and I don't know if doesn't Santa Teresa High School have uniforms? No? Maybe they can just go ahead and start expressing themselves a little bit more often, and give them something to look for on Fridays and be like, oh, I'll wear my shoes or whatever else. Because, yeah, I mean, to me, any restrictions are like, give me anxiety. I'm a free for all.
So, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, yes, that's one of the things that I think it will help the school, because we can have rewards for them. Will be like Free Friday, it will help a lot also with support for the kids, that they look forward to something that is not money driven, because we're struggling how to motivate them to do better. That would be perfect if they wear uniforms, and like Friday, if you did all your assignments, you get a free pass, something like that. It will be rewarding for them, of course.
Okay, so I have comments. As a mom, I do like uniform. And I learned something right now is like, because I see some prefer slacks over jeans. I'd never thought Miss Murillo was telling me slacks tend to be cheaper than jeans. However, as a mom, I prefer jeans because they're more duran más. So, I mean, if there's the flexibility in that would be awesome. But it is your school. The other thing that, and Mr. Lira touched upon it, and so my question to you is, here in Chaparral, we've got a couple of campuses. Well, all of our elementary, with the exception of Sunrise, are uniform. And so I'm going to go here. So this is, to me, it's a touchy issue. So, fundraising, because some of our schools here say it's free dress, when it's really not free dress, that you have to pay $1 or $2 to dress out of uniform. I get why our principals do that. To fundraise, to provide opportunities in the form of banquets, or raise money to do things for the kids, and I'm being honest. Sometimes I question: does every single cent that is raised on those fundraisings go to every single student? I'm going to say no. Okay, just my opinion, because we do have students with low, who can't afford that dollar. So just think about it, if I'm from a family where I cannot afford that dollar, how fair is it to my son, to my daughter, when her son can't pay a dollar, so my kid's never going to be able to dress. So just food for thought, on that. I do like the idea of using as a reward, but just food for all of you principals is how fair is it? And that's all I wanted to say. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. Okay, moving on to discussion item 10B, chronic absenteeism report. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Villalobos' team and Ms. Complido will present this item, I believe.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. Today we have the report for the chronic absenteeism, which is the report on so that you can understand the data where we are and what has been happening on the district. And I have Ms. Cumplido, who is in charge of all this attendance in the district.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, I'm going to go ahead and begin with the attendance grant, the budget. And so right here, you'll see we were allocated 165,000. And so what you're seeing there where it says general supplies and materials, that is what we're using for incentives. And so we're only allowed to purchase anything that follows the Title I guidelines. For example, pencils, markers, notebooks. And so we are following the Title I guidelines for the general supplies and materials, which are our incentives. And then we have our salary expenses, where if you notice the boxes under salary expenses where we have the educational retirement and of course the payments, until we get to the bottom section where it says unemployment compensation. That's only for one employee, and that's our attendance instructional support, and that individual is going to begin in January. And they will be focusing on making phone calls to those parents that have students that are found in tiers 2. And we're also going to see if we can have them call parents in tier 3. Something that we have to keep in mind is that we only have 2 individuals that are going to be focusing on that. And so that individual will begin in January. And then on the bottom section where we have the professional development, that's the amount that has been allocated for professional development. Just really quickly, I want to go back to the employee. We do have to keep in mind that we do have the grant fund right now, but it doesn't mean that we're going to have it next school year, so we had to ensure that we had something that's sustainable. And for professional development, something that they've the PED has really been working with us and providing guidance is that they really want us to attend professional development and really, when we do attend, come back and share that information with district leadership. And so that money there is allocated for that professional development. And then the one where we have the chronic absenteeism 23-24, that one is for your reference. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the current one, which is 24-25. So on this one, you're gonna notice that there's a lot of tabs on the bottom. If you could please scroll so that we could. On the left-hand side. Will you refresh, please? So on this one right here, you'll notice that we have this one on the left-hand side. you're supposed to be able to see the targets. I don't think it's letting us scroll to the left right now. But just really quickly, when you're looking at the months and you see anything in red, it means that thank you, Mr. Kemp. So if you see anything in red, you'll notice that those campuses already went over what their target was. So on the left-hand side, you'll see their chronic absenteeism rate, that's their target. And then you'll notice that we have the rates for the previous months. And then those campuses that where you see in green, they're still on track to meet their chronic absenteeism rate. If you could click on the following tab. So we have multiple tabs because we are really monitoring different things. So this is a year comparison. When we're looking at the months, we're looking at last year's, how they did in that specific month, and then how they're currently doing on that month this school year. And then on the following tab, we have the month comparison. So on this one, we are tracking the data from the previous month. Have they increased? Has a chronic rate increased or decreased? So on this one, you may see a lot of red, but when you look at the very first tab, you'll see that most of our schools are on track to meet their chronic absenteeism rate. And then if you could click on the tab for November. And so the data for December, that one will be posted in January. We have to run our reports a couple of days after the end of the month. So November's data, here's the data that we have, and we do have one student that was referred to juvenile probation office. And I know that last board meeting, we did have a question in regards to how many students, and last year we had 19 students that were referred to juvenile probation office. And you'll be able to see that in the previous document that was shared. And then if we'll go to, you'll exit that document and then open up the following. And then on this one, this is the one where we're tracking the daily attendance. And I know that previously we had questions in regards to early out Wednesdays, if the absences were higher on early out Wednesdays, and that's not the case. Right now, the days that we're seeing the most absences are Fridays, and then also on Mondays as well. And so for this one, if we click on every tab, we have a tab for every campus. And then if you'll scroll a little bit to the right, please. Thank you. And so that's where we're tracking the data. So we have the students that are absent, how many are present, and then how many of those students are excused or unexcused. And then we could and so that's everything that we'll be tracking. Those that are in black, that's where you find the weekends, and then of course some of them are where we have our holidays, but the ones in yellow are our early outs.
Okay, Madam President, board members, questions. What I want you to know is it takes an entire team that is tasked with tracking attendance on each campus every day. We use Power School to report attendance, so our teachers at secondaries every period, at elementaries I believe it's twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And then when we see a student's absence, we have to know, well, what is that total amount? And the concern really becomes when they've been absent 10% or more, is that correct, Ms. Completo, of the time. And so a student, the first 9 weeks, could have, maybe due to many circumstances, be quickly in Tier 1 or Tier 2. But if they improve that, then they can move out of Tier 2 into Tier 1 and then not even be in any of the tiers. And I want you to, when we talk about tiers, I want you to understand those are layers of support. That obviously a Tier 1 is, we've got some concerns. We're going to try to work with family. Level 2, Tier 2, that's a higher level of concern. Tier 3 is a higher level of a concern. Each child that gets through those stages, we hope they don't, but if they do, there's an entire packet that documents all the interventions, the attempts to contact home, the meeting with parents, the attendance contract, those components before it's ever referred out. So I don't know if you have questions about those, but, and Mr. Villalobos, if I missed anything about that.
I would like to add to that, Mr. Dempsey. The daily attendance report that you just saw, this is not generated by Power School or anything. This is done by hand, by Ms. Lily, who is an amazing assistant for the attendance. All she does is like generating this report every day, ensuring the numbers are accurate on every school. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes to understand, but that's what's telling us the trends, what is happening, and really big kudos, amazing to the work that Ms. Cumplido is doing with this, because this has been so proactive, and we are really focusing a lot on the prevention part, not only on the intervention. It's a combination of that. So we do the interventions, follow the bill the way it is, but prevention plays a big role now, and it's like how we are assuring that this group, amazing group, is really on top of it. You should see them one of these days working like this. Is an amazing thing what they're doing, how intense and passionate they are about really making sure that they can rescue every single kid. This is a very personalized approach that we're doing to this program.
Questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Morales.
Yeah, I have a couple. Professional development, you said there was $60,000 in that grant. Who benefits from the professional development?
So they want us to focus on leadership. So right now, the ones that are attending are the attendance advocates, because they serve the whole district. And then also we're inviting district leadership to attend. Our next conference is in April. So we'll be inviting some of the administrators. And then the other professional development that we are also attending is the Power School University.
Okay. And the attendance advocates, how many does the district have, and is that enough?
Right, we need more. We currently
You have 5?
7.
7. Mm-hmm. And they're spread out through areas?
Yes, and the way that we've worked on what areas they're serving is based on equity.
Okay, and then in that grant, there's $35,000 for the new position. What's the title of that new position, and is this just partial funding, or is it to help supplement the salary?
So this one is going to be funding the position for this year.
But what's the title of the position?
It's attendance assistant, instructional assistant for attendance.
And so their salary is only going to be $35,000?
Plus benefits and everything else. And we currently already have 2 individuals that working in that capacity, but only one of them makes phone calls and the other one is taking care of compiling all the daily attendance for us.
Okay, and in one of those charts, you kind of went through them really, really quick. And I wasn't able to access the information earlier, so I'd like to make sure that we at least have a copy of the presentation so we can kind of look at it. Because to me, absenteeism is a huge issue. You know, when you have absenteeism that high, and I looked at one of the charts as we were going through it, and I saw from August to now that the numbers keep going up. And in those charts, there was a chronic absentee rate. Who determines what that is?
The chronic absentee.
And the goals?
So the chronic absenteeism rate, that one is determined by the state. Next year, we're going to have the opportunity to determine what our goal is going to be.
Okay, and currently that's determined by the state, and do they do it by school, or are they taking a general number?
So for the goal that they've given us is 3%, 2 to 3% decrease.
Decrease?
Yes.
So it's based on previous years?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so then the way we calculate absentee, we can actually change from year to year, right?
Correct.
And then if we change it from year to year, then we can really meet our goals, right? If we change how we calculate absenteeism. Okay, so there's concern there. With the JPO, last time we talked about them having no teeth. And I totally agree with that because I work with the JPOs a lot. And, you know, every time I see them, they say, hey, we need uniforms in the schools. We need uniforms in the schools. And they're always telling me that. And I understand why, because we work with a lot of those kids. But I think you said this year that you sent one referral?
Yes, that's correct. So we recently met with the Juvenile Probation Office, and we met with Chief Johnson and his team, Officer Jaramillo, and of course, Officer Frank that's assigned to the southern area. And so we're currently working on how to best support our students. I know that they did have the Deputy Director, Corey Adams, and he's the one that presented to the legislature. And he requested for JPO not to be the last option because they do have a lot of resources available for our students. And something else that they're requesting is that that it's not an optional for the parents and our students, but for them to be something that they have to do if they're sent to juvenile probation.
Okay, so based on I think you said 19, was it, for last year that went? Can you tell us, I'm assuming this last one for this year just happened recently, right? Because the last time we were here, you said there was no one, right? So based on last year's data, and you know, can you give us an example of how sending a kid to the JPO has benefited them?
So when we send the students to JPO, that is our very last option. So sometimes we may not see, it takes actually 3 months for them to move from one tier. If they're on tier 4, it takes 3 months for them to move to tier 3. And they have to be consecutively present for 3 months. So something that we've seen when we do send them to JPO is that those that do participate and actually go through with following up with the resources that are available, we notice that they do respond well to it and come to school. And we have others that choose not to.
Can you give any specific, you know, what do you call it, examples? Like I can tell you that some of the kids that actually we worked through with JPO who were causing issues at school are now self-sufficient. They're away from drugs. You know, they're a lot of positive. They're, you know, they're not being kicked out anymore. They're working towards, and this is not just us. It was a group, and it includes the district as well that has been there to support these students and the principals and all that stuff. You know, but I can tell you specifically with this one kid, what we did, and how the school supported them and the benefits of everything they do. So that's what I'm looking for, because I'm really curious to see how well, I mean, because it seems like you guys have a lot to do. And, you know, we just need to make sure that these kids are not being lost, and that if it comes down to a budget issue, and like you guys stated, that you need more people, then maybe it's something that we look into the future. But in order to approve a budget that supports more staff, we need to know what's happening with that, you know.
And so with the students, as soon as we receive a referral, we go ahead and we have different attempts. In the past, all we were doing were home visits. Now we've noticed that some parents prefer to communicate via text or also via the AIS platform, and we still conduct home visits as well. And in some cases, we have to send mail out because we can't find them. And so when that mail comes back and it tells us that the place is vacant, then of course we continue proceeding depending on the absences. But then we do have our first meeting, and that's something that we're working on, where we have our first meeting and sometimes parents don't show up. And so maybe we have a couple of attempts and we still don't have the parents show up. And so then we continue looking for the parents, and also sometimes we run into this a lot with the students in high school. One of our approaches is getting in touch with the students, because sometimes you'll find that some students will come to school for certain classes, but not for all of them, but they do accumulate daily absences. And so then as we progress, then we contact JPO, and then JPO holds the same meeting that we have with them.
Okay, so, well, we'll just move on. I was asking for a specific example. And then the tiers, Mr. Dempsey mentioned levels and you mentioned tiers. So you said that, I guess when a student goes to the JPO, they're at tier 4?
I'm sorry.
And then they should go to tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, towards recovery, I'm guessing. What is tier 4? What do each of the tiers mean?
So when we're talking about the tiers, or tier 1 is our whole campus prevention. So that those are students that have 5% or less absences. And then for tier 2, we have those students that are at 5 to 10%. And then for tier 3, we have those students that are 10 to 19%. And then those that are in tier 4 have accumulated 20% or more absences.
Okay.
Let me just ask Mr. On that one, this is what the Attendance for Success ad has. And we can send you the bill so that you can read it, because that's what there's explanation on all the tiers, how they work exactly, because we are just following the bill to separate the kids by tiers.
Yeah,
What kind of interventions we can do at every tier.
Okay, I'm just wondering. And is this consistent with the levels that Mr. Dempsey meant? Is that the same thing?
Same.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez? President, thank you. You mentioned that there's 7 attendance advocates. And here we go. And that they attend the professional development. If there's a training, all of them go, all of the 7 attend, or it depends on the need, or how is that determined?
All of the attendance advocates are invited, but some of them unfortunately aren't able to attend. So something that I do is I send out like an email asking them if there's any sessions that they would like to attend. And then they'll respond, and then we'll make an effort to attend those sessions that they're interested in, and then come back, and we debrief, and then we collect all of the information, because it's impossible to attend every session that's offered. So we come back, and then we accumulate all the information, and then we share out with them.
So that means that it's not, I don't want to say mandatory, but not required. It's if they can go. I'm thinking, are they all on the same page, regardless of what, how many they attended, that they are, all following and having the same vision per se, and working towards that, right? So Okay, and then my other question would be on the Power School University. What is that one? What is that gonna entail? Do you know what it looks like? Not,
So that's something that we're really excited about because they have made improvements to Power School, and there are certain things that are available that we do not know how to use yet. And there's other new things that are going to be available for us to learn about, but really focusing on that chronic absenteeism, because right now we do have Lily that's taking care of that, and she's doing it manually. So we're hoping that they have something available. We haven't seen the agenda yet. It's very general right now.
so do we currently have experts in Power School? I mean, I know that there's many areas and there's many great things that could be happening, so, yes. Margie, okay. Sounds good. What other thing was I gonna ask? Oh, yes, you mentioned that you prevent, you work on the prevention. So what tactics do you utilize for that?
Something that we had done in the past is that we were only taking referrals, attendance advocate referrals for students that had 5 unexcused absences. And so we've revamped that, and now we're taking referrals for those students that have excused, unexcused, or suspensions.
Which technically, an absence is an absence, right? That's what the rule says anyway.
Yes.
So. Thank you.
Madam President, may I?
Go ahead.
May I follow up? How many students right now are you guys working with?
For the referrals,
Well, that go through your program, yeah.
so right now it varies by campus. We do have some of our campuses that are high schools. Those are the ones that have students that are chronic. So sometimes our attendance advocates receive 80 to 100, a little over 100 referrals.
Is that in how often? Like a month, a week?
So it varies because we start off the year and because of the prevention piece, we started taking referrals weekly. And then as time progresses, then we started taking them about every 2 weeks. So right now, that's what we're seeing, the trend.
Okay, so how many people are within your purview right now? How many students?
I don't have the exact number right now.
Okay, so estimate.
I would say about a little over 1,000.
So 1,000, that's 142 per advocate. That's a lot. How I don't understand how they do that. How can they get their jobs done?
Right now, it is very challenging, but something that we do have is that we're able to send text messages, and also in the past it was just home visits, so right now we did transition to sending text messages, making phone calls, and also communicating via AIS, and making
Instead of home visits? Is that what you said?
No. We have all of them as attempts. So in the past, it was just a home visit, and now when we receive an attendance advocate referral, we can make a phone call. If it's the first time that we receive it, we make a phone call and try to make contact, and then from there, we move on.
Okay.
And there, in some cases, the first thing that we do is a home visit. It just depends.
Okay. Now, the last thing that I have is just a comment. I would strongly suggest that you guys look to see what other resources can be made available by the board, through the budget process or through policy making, and present that to the board so that we can have a discussion about it and see if we can put it into action. Thank you.
Madam President, just one last, because looking at the numbers, you're saying, well, first of all, you had mentioned that it's based on equity, right? So like depending on what area, like you have 7 attendance advocates, but based on equity. So how is that one? Because then that doesn't mean that their workload would be balanced, right? Because that means maybe some have excess of 142. That's only averaging it out. But in reality, does it look that way? Do they eat? Do you average it out, or is it based on the school?
So we try to average the advocates where they are assigned, but what we need to remind here is like, attendance comes under like Title I program. And Title I functions by equity. And as, if you remember the presentation where we gave you on federal programs, is like we are obligated to provide the schools different levels. We don't provide, they will explain, LUDIM, general, all the funds have to be equal for all the schools, not federal funds. Funds have to be providing equity according to the level of poverty and the socioeconomical level of the school. So the schools with the highest levels of poverty are the ones that need to have the most services under Title I. And we try to balance as much as we can. And we, Lisa tries to balance also with the advocates, like so that you don't have 500 and you have 200. But we separate the schools according to the equity and the level of every school. The numbers that we use, like right now we are using the number that we use has to be the one that was used on the application for the GISD on Title I, which is the report on the 128th day of last year. That tell us what schools are the numbers. This year we receive already the report, the direct certification from the day, from the 40th day. We don't have the 80th day yet, but for the 40th day we have it, and the 5 schools with the highest levels of poverty, those are the ones that need to be receiving the most amount of support and services, because those are the students in biggest needs.
So that means that you grade the support between one advocate and another, you know, even if it's not their...
Even if it's not, yeah, that's how we try to balance with the numbers and the budget, and I say, okay, those are the schools that have the highest needs, so it's like we need to like concentrate on those schools, not that we don't pay attention to the other ones. Remember, we're a Title I districts. All our schools are Title I, but there are schools that have a highest level than the other ones. And it's like, that means like, so we see the numbers and they say, okay, this one are the priority, and that's how we are distributing and how we try to put the what advocate goes here and there. And yes, we do need more funding for attendance advocates, and this is a program that has been growing. And we have that, and we know that we need to be growing, and that's something that really concerns us, because that's one of the highest needs for the Title I students, is coming to school. And it's one of our main concerns. And like, for example, with Power School University, that's what we're looking forward. That we learn something that, because we have Lily doing this by hand, this daily report, you saw the amount of work on this daily report. She does it by hand every day. That's why we're looking so excited to see maybe Power School, we can finally find a program, because as this has become the #1 nationwide program, because it's the #1 nation in all the schools in the States, is like, there's not a program yet that help us have this data available, easy, fast, in a better way. Because we have been finding one. We tried one last year and it didn't work.
No, I really appreciate that, right? And I think my biggest concern is the workload. You know, where it wouldn't be balanced, and that's where I hope that that's what's happening. I mean, obviously that's what you're stating, so that's good, because as it is, 142 per person is already high. Now imagine if we double that for one person and the other one only has half of that. That wouldn't, you know, it really, speaking about equity, then it really wouldn't even show equity amongst the employees, correct?
No, exactly. It's a lot of work.
Just something else that I wanted to add is that we are looking at that equity piece. That's the #1 thing that we look at under Title I funds, but also looking at what the chronic rate, and those schools that do have a lower chronic rate, but they're higher on the equity, we make sure that we kind of balance that out. And then also serving our pre-Ks as well, as they do count for our chronic rate. And it's not mandatory.
So I have some comments, maybe some questions in there embedded. So I think some of my questions have been answered, because you know, I know what equity is versus equality, and just for the public out there, so I think your explanation will assist those watching to understand the difference. So with that in mind, because we need to address more the schools that have more equity, so then I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. It seems like then those campuses are gonna have greater number of students needing help, which means also that I'm hoping that our, what do you call them, attendance advocates are not being overloaded, that one is not taking on more than the others, because like if if I'm in a school that has more equity, well, dang, I'm gonna have more kids than Claudia, who is one that doesn't have, and so how fair is that, you know? So it sounds like you're working on that. So you might not have the answer tonight, but I do ask you to please think about how many more attendance advocates. Right now you said you have 7. How many more do we need so that we can plan on that with the upcoming budget so that it does become a recurring position, recurring, and those funds can be recurring. What else was going to ask? I do thank you, Ms. Elisa, because, as your supervisor said, you do a lot of work, but I also want to remind the public that there's also, you mentioned a team which consists of attendance advocates, because those are the ones I'm going to assume are the ones collecting that data. Am I missing anybody else? Who else is part of this team?
Our attendance support as well.
Attendance support.
The ones
okay.
that are making phone calls and collecting the data for us.
Okay. And then what else? As my colleagues were asking questions, that's how I work, I come up with my questions right on the spot. And so I know that in previous presentations, we're always praising Gadsden High School. Who is in charge of that school? Because they're doing a phenomenal job. Who's that person?
Right now, the advocate that's assigned to Gadsden High School is Janine Yanez.
And so why I bring that up is, I don't know if you know, so I'm curious also, is this Gadsden High School community one that has a lot of equity, that requires equity, or not?
Actually, our high schools are
Who's the high school that has that?
No, it's not, but it's a great team that is going on Gadsden High School too, and I think we also have to praise a lot. Miss Janine has been amazing doing this,
Okay.
and Miss Legarreta
Our principal,
has
okay.
made an amazing leadership role in this.
Okay, so who is the high school with the greatest equity need?
Chaparral. Desert Pride first.
Desert Pride and then
Desert Pride
Chaparral?
and then Chaparral.
Okay, and so I guess I just wanted to make the comment that even though Chaparral and Desert Pride are the ones currently first Desert Pride, and Chaparral High School with the greatest equity, I'm all about learning, from each other. Hopefully, Ms. Legarreta and Janine Olivas is sharing information as a team to Daniela Rodriguez and whoever the POA is there, because we can learn from one another to hopefully replicate, knowing that every community is different, but replicating and adjusting so that other campuses can have the success that Gadsden High School has had, because I know that you're always referring and tooting their horns. So, but with that, I conclude my comments and questions. Thank you for all you do, ladies, and also to the attendance advocates and the whole team. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next discussion item, 10C, school designations. Official results from New Mexico PED Department. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Hernandez and Ms. Zulema is going to help us. Sorry.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. We're here to present Ms. Zulema de la Rosa as our testing coordinator for the district. I think you met her at the beginning of the year when she was hired. This will be her first board presentation. I just want to give a little bit of background on the designations. We did not receive those until last month, November. I think it was like 2 days before the board meeting, and I think that was brought up at the board meeting. We couldn't put it on the agenda. But today, when you do see some of these pieces, I do want to, I was very, very emotional with Alexa. Alexa was one of my students at Chaparral Middle, so when her mom, her adopted parents, her uncle, talked about her struggles, I think that it's very important that when you see what we've done as a district, that human struggle is a big part of this piece. I know that because being a principal in this community, it's very dear to my heart, and so our kids, you just saw this piece on attendance, right? It's about access, it's about coming to school. They have a lot of challenges, and it's not that they don't want to come to school. A lot of our kids are watching siblings are working, or it's just tough. It's tough overall. Ms. Zulema will be going through these pieces for you because this is what she does. She communicates frequently with the PED. A little frustrating because again, for us, it's an autopsy. We received it last month. We're in the middle, the semester's over. Luckily for us, we're very data-driven with formative assessment data, and so we really try to use our quick data as the days go and as our students are progressing through some of the formative assessments. So I think that this is why we've done well. There's still a lot of work to be done, but our teachers are working extremely hard. The commitment to the kids and to what they're learning. And it's just, I'm really proud of being part of this piece because like our students are attending top tier universities, right? They can do it. They have the capacity, and it's our moral obligation to provide those opportunities. So I'm going to have Ms. Zulema, Ms. De La Rosa present all of the data that came through the PED, and she's gonna just kind of go through those pieces, and any questions you have, we'll be happy to answer.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. I want to go ahead, if you look at this first slide, what we have is I've been asked to give a little bit of an overview for school designations. And so the designations are coming from a report from NM Vistas for our district. And this is the system that has replaced the report card. So if you remember prior, schools used to receive a letter grade. Now instead of a letter grade, they receive a designation. And it's funny that I say that because in reality, even though there's 6 categories or designation categories, they only consider the bottom as being in designation. Okay, just be aware of that, okay? So when we look at these, at the very top, we have Spotlight. That is our highest recognition in the state of New Mexico. These are the schools that are among the top 25. Even though this is a designation, those schools are not considered in designation. Then we have traditional. And traditional means that the school is in good standing, not in designation. Then we have the last 4, and they are in decreasing order, meaning that as we keep progressively going down the list, yes, they need more support, okay? We have targeted support and improvement schools, which is what we usually refer to as TSI. These are schools with consistently underperforming student groups. Then we have additional targeted support and improvement school. That is what we refer to as ATSI. These are schools in need of support with 1 or more of the lowest performing groups of students. We have comprehensive support and improvement school, which is CSI. These are the schools scoring in the bottom 5% of Title I schools overall, or that have a graduation rate below 67%. And the last designation, we have more rigorous interventions, or MRI. These are the schools not exiting CSI status after 3 years of receiving support. So, next slide, please. As we look at our results, we did have designations for the year 2021, 2022, but those are no longer available on that report. So I'm not making reference to those. When we look at what we have, they list the schools in alphabetical order, and you can, very briefly look at all the designations for our district. And I apologize that they're hard to see, but this is what we're working with off of the platform. Next slide, please. I'm going to focus really quickly on what the state considers schools in designation. If you've noticed, in 2022-2023 school year, we had 5 schools in designation. There were 2 schools, that was Chaparral Middle, who was in ATSI for students with disabilities, as well as Santa Teresa Middle, same category, okay? Gadsden Middle School was ATSI, but they were in designation because of 2 groups, students with disabilities and their EL subgroup, okay? Then we had another ATSI school, and this is Vado Elementary, but they were in designation because of their EL group. And then last, we have Desert Pride Academy, who was CSI, and this has to do with performance. Now, when you look at 23, the school year 2023-24, we no longer have any schools in designation, okay? Now, I do want to mention, we also have, if we go to next slide, we've had spotlight schools. This system was implemented, I believe, in 2021, 2022. We did have one spotlight school, Aveches or Alta Vista Early College. In 2022-23, we had two schools. This was Alta Vista Early College and Anthony Elementary. This last year, with the data that was just released, we have 4 schools. So we have continuously improved. It's kind of, I'm hoping that we keep doubling every year. We went with 1 and then 2, and then hopefully the pattern continues. But it is commendable. Now, this, you know, when we look at this improvement, this does come with a caution. Next slide, please. Part of that designation comes with a score. And what the NMPED has done, when we move from one year to the other, and this is for everybody, you will receive a warning at the very top of the platform that says point totals from school year 2022-23 should not or cannot be compared due to the changes in business rules, meaning that how and what they're measuring has changed. So I'll give you an example, okay? And I'm doing this because it's at the top of the list, but Alta Vista Early College has been a spotlight school throughout. And if you look at their total points for the 22-23 school year, they were at 88.3. This last year, 23-24, their points are 84.9. What we are being asked to do is not to make a comparison between those two scores. We cannot say they dropped. Why? Because the way they're measuring that out of 100 points is different. So, assuming that the state does not change the business rules, we will be able to use that comparison, which is a little bit more specific than a designation. But we'll have to see. Okay, having said that, there are 4 areas on this report, other than designations, that they focus on. And for 22-23, there was only 3 areas. Okay, so when you look at the report as you're scrolling down, the very first area is proficiencies, the second is growth, the third is additional metrics, and these exist for the 22-23 year. This year, we have an additional area at the very bottom called non-ESA metrics, or ESSA metrics, pardon me, okay? Now, I'm gonna dive into a little bit of those, because since we can't compare those total point scores, there are certain things that we can look at to compare from year to year. Okay, next slide, please. So if we look at the very first area, which is proficiencies, the only reason we are able to really measure whether or not there was growth from one year to the next is because the summative assessment that provides these proficiencies has remained the same. There has been no change in how they're measuring in the scale, or we haven't changed the test. So when we look at math, reading, and science proficiency at the very top, you will see that we have, I put the state and I put Gadsden. For Gadsden ISD, we are currently at 24 proficiency for math, we're at 35 proficiency for reading, and we're at 31% proficiency in science. Well, not giving any context, we really don't know if that's low or high. This is why this report, this NMVista, gives us kind of sort of an idea of where are we as a district overall. Just give me a gauge, temperature-wise. How are we doing? Well, when we look at the state, if you notice, we are a little bit better than the state, which is great, right? There's always room for improvement. We did decline in math, but when we look at it, that is consistent with what is happening across the state. So that's what that tells us, okay? Now, next slide. I'm gonna go ahead and look at math. I apologize, next slide. If we look at it, the independent, and I'm not sure what's being highlighted. Okay, yes. So if we just look at the math proficiencies, I broke it up into elementaries, middle schools, and high schools. We have 64% of our elementaries who were able to maintain or increase proficiency from one year to the next. So that's great. If we look at reading proficiency, if you can click on the next slide, we're looking at 71% schools maintaining, elementary schools maintaining or increasing their proficiency rate. When you look at science proficiency, for the next slide, we have 43% increasing or maintaining, okay? I want to point out a few more things. Next slide, please. When we look at math and reading proficiency, right, the areas where we least improved in the middle school and high school, that would be, we had 0% schools who in middle school, and we had, and I'm sorry, yes, 0% for middle schools for math, and if you look at reading, of the three areas, they are struggling the most with reading for high schools. Next slide, please. Areas of real good growth, we were able to, the middle schools and the high schools are what we consider secondary, did an amazing job in science. They really did. They are almost at 100% staying the same or making an improvement. Next slide, please. Okay, so that is how you would very likely use the proficiencies. The next area is growth. Once again, if you look at, and I commend the state for looking at how they're measuring growth. They have been very vocal about how they're looking at better ways of measuring growth. And so if you look at 2022-23, it used to be they were just taking the percentage of change in math or reading or graduation rate compared to the previous year. Now I want you to look at, so if you look at the scores from the previous year, right, we were at 0 for math, and now we have a different type of score or report given for this current year. So I want you to look at, I'll start with the math for this 23-24 year, okay? And basically what they're taking, because this is the district overall. You can find this information for every single school if you select into the schools. But overall in our district for math, this is telling us that the median growth of students in math compared to their peers who had similar scores on previous tests. So what does that 51st or that rating mean? Well, their methodology now is to calculate individual student growth percentiles, so SGPs. 51st means that the student growth or change in score from the previous year to the current year was greater than 51% of students with similar histories. Now, once again, context. What does that mean? Is that really good or not as good? To give you an idea, a 50 represents medium growth, meaning the student's growth was average compared to their academic peers. So anything higher than a 50 indicate higher growth, and anything lower than a 50 indicates lower growth. So that's where we're at. We're a little bit better than the average student, okay? Now in reading, we did a little bit better. We're showing more growth. We're at 53rd. And then last we have graduation. Now graduation, once again, if you look at how it was being measured in 22-23, they were doing the annual increase in the 4-year graduation rate over 3 years. Now they're doing a combination, okay? The combination is they're looking at the 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates for the cohorts, plus the annual increase in the 4-year graduation rate over 3 years, okay? So it's a good thing. They're looking at more factors. Is the district supporting, if our cohorts of students are graduating in 4 years, are they taking 5 years to graduate? Are they taking 6 years to graduate? Or do we have an increase in graduation rate? Gadsden currently stands at 2.3. I don't know about you, but that number sounded very low to me. So I went ahead and I did a little bit of further investigation, making sure we were looking at this number because it's green, so it means something positive, and that's absolutely true. This is indicative of a positive trend. But to give you an idea of how this compares, the state is at negative 0.1% in this area. Okay? So we are good. LCPS, and I hate to point fingers, they're positive, but they're only at 0.6%. We're at 2.3. Okay, next slide. So that was growth. Another area is additional metrics, and this is the last thing that is in common with what you see the previous year. I do want to mention that most of the information on this, in this section, is under construction. They have a little, it says data coming in January 2025. And even the ones on the top, so yes, this was just released, but if you were to go to English learner progress, they only have one measure out of the 3 measures that they're supposed to give. So please know that I'm not gonna dive too much into this because it's still information that hasn't been provided yet. I do wanna mention that for English learner progress, last year we were at 15.5. This year we are at 21.2 overall. There are a few things that we need to keep in mind, and it's difficult to go from one thing to the next, but fortunately for us, how we measure proficiency in the access test did change, but it changed over 2 years ago. So if you compare, right, New Mexico had established as a state that the overall composite score for declaring a student fluent English proficient was 5. That was back in 2018. That changed in 2023 to 4.7, okay? Believe it or not, the state of New Mexico in the WIDA consortium is actually very high. We have states like Florida who have made that score, I think 4.2 or 4.4. So that is where we are at. So it's very difficult for you to go back that many years when you were measuring, when you're changing. I also want to provide information. We are going to change the access test, not this year. This is the last year we give this test, so we should have 3 years of data, but the test will change, so that has to be taken into consideration. Other than that, I stand for questions.
Wonderful presentation for your first time, very confident. Appreciate you.
I'm nervous.
Doesn't look like it. Awesome job. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I do have a comment. Let me tell you, Ms. Flores is absolutely right. Thank you for the clarity. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry, I just had to say that, or I have to say that,
Didn't they make it more complex? I mean, it is a lot of information that, you know, when you look at data, you think that seeing numbers would, you know, it's going to tell you where you're at. But having to dig so much and getting all that information to get a true, I guess, feel of where you're standing, yes, and then not having it fully functioning, I mean, that really, yeah, I think we need to, well, I mean, not as a district, right, but I think the state really needs to revamp all these things, but in a way where it's more, where we can understand it and not make it more work to at the end get the same result, per se. So, anyway, that was just my comment. Thank you for the report.
You're welcome. Any further comments? Okay.
Thank
So
you.
Lema, remind me your last name?
De la Rosa.
De la Rosa. Thank you for your presentation. Have a good evening. Okay, moving on to item D of discussion, sewage connection to Anthony project. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena and Ms. Vela are going to present this item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. Okay, this project consists of the improvements as part of the Gadsden Middle School, the new Gadsden Middle School, to connect the sewage and wastewater to the Anthony Water and Sanitation District sewer collection system, and to eliminate all the existing sewer treatment plants we have. The project will also include Gadsden High School and the physical plant department. As you can see on the presentation, This is gonna run, well, you can see all in green. It's gonna be all how it's gonna run to the Anthony plant. Also, we have here our Bohanna and Houston. They're our engineering consultant. So I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments, or concerns for Ms. Vela? We don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to discussion item 10, what am I saying? Yeah. Discussion item 11E, adjustment of the use of school facilities fee schedule, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this item.
Good evening again, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. We have policy K1650 and regulation KF-R. It deals with facilities use of the school facilities. And all I'm bringing for discussion today is that we haven't adjusted, we are not adjusting any of the fee rentals on the, if you can click on the link, Mr. Snowden. We're not adjusting the rentals. We want to adjust the charges like for custodial services, security, and student nutrition. We haven't adjusted those since 2009. And as you know, our salaries have increased quite a bit since then. So we just wanted to make the adjustment from, for example, custodial services from $25 an hour to, if you can scroll down a little bit more, please. Right there. And I apologize for the red writing. I noticed a mistake last minute, and I didn't have a chance to type it, so I had to write it in there. But we're adjusting from 25 to 35 an hour for overtime regular days, and then to 75 if it's on a holiday. So it's really not a lot of increase, but it matches up more with our what would be our time and a half for those salaries. And I stand for questions.
Questions, comments, concerns for Ms. Cadena?
I just have one
Mr.
question.
Morales?
Thank you, Madam President. Who pays these fees?
It depends, sir. If you notice on the use of facilities fee schedule, on the, if you can scroll down to the next page, no, on that same link. Yeah, scroll. Well, there's different groups. If you notice on the first, where it says groups 1 and 2, and then 3, and then 4 and 5. So groups 1 and 2, those are just school groups or school organizations, other Texas and New Mexico public educational institutions. The other groups consist of like youth groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. It just depends, and we will charge them either rent or overtime just for custodians to clean afterwards, or if we have to provide security. It just depends on the organization. When it's within the district, it depends on the department. For example, for Saturday's event, at the STEM event at Gadsden High School, so Ms. Rosie Villalobos would pay for the overtime in that case. Okay.
Any further questions? No questions, no further questions. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
presentation, ma'am. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thank you. Okay, and moving on to our last discussion item, Ms. Cadena Mesquita Elementary Property Disposition, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Cadena will present this last item in discussion.
Good evening again. So Mesquite Elementary, as you all know, we consolidate Mesquite Elementary, and it's been vacant since June of 2023. It's approximately 10 acres, about 56,000 square feet building. We recently had a surplus auction where we stored a lot of items and got rid of a lot of things that were stored over that time frame, and it wasn't just from Mesquite. However, we have had several, I can say about 5 instances of vandalism, break-ins at that site, and it's not good for the site to remain vacant. It deteriorates as much as we try to maintain it. We still have to maintain the grounds, make sure the weeds don't get overgrown and etc. But it's just not being used. So I wanted the board to consider to see what they would want to do with the property. We can we can sell it. I do have an appraisal. However, I was advised by the attorney not to disclose that publicly until it's decided what we want to do with it. And we can also, according to the attorney, we can also discuss property sales and values and stuff in closed session. So if the board is more comfortable with that. Just wanted to bring it to your attention because the longer it sits there, the more it deteriorates, the more vandalism occurs. And we really haven't had any serious inquiries about the property, like, a government, another government entity or another organization. So just wanted to put that on your radar. And I stand for questions.
So my only question is, let's say that the district wanted to keep it, use it for something. Is it usable as is currently?
Well, we do have a major sewage pipe collapse in one of the hallways. So to fix that, we'd have to tear up one of the main hallways and an auxiliary hallway, probably around the cost of $1 million. So, and of course you have the original portion of the building that was probably remodeled close to 20 years ago. So, I mean, it needs, aside from the sewage, it needs a lot of work.
Any further questions?
I
Mr.
do have a
Morales?
question, maybe something to consider. Is it possible to sell it in pieces?
We could possibly do that, sir. It just depends. You would have to survey the property again, right, and divide it how the board wishes to divide it, whether it's, because it is a large property, it's 10 acres, and there's a lot of land that doesn't contain buildings, right? So you could basically survey it and divide it into, several buildings, several lots. It just depends what the county would allow as well for the zoning.
And then a follow-up to that is, which I'm not sure, I mean, I know we can't violate the anti-donation clause, but I don't know if the anti-donation clause applies between the school district and governmental agencies, because if it doesn't, so I mean, if it's cheaper for us to at least donate part of that to the county and make it into a community park or something where it's accessible for, maybe that's something to consider. And then, do something else with the building.
Yes, sir.
Just.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay, ahora sí. Good night. Buenas noches. Thank you for your
Have a good night.
presentation. Okay. Moving on to item 12, those are just a list of our future events as school board members. Yeah, put it on your calendar. And just a reminder, this Friday at 6 p.m., Desert Pride Academy graduation. Looking forward to attending that. And be aware of when items are due for the next agenda approval meeting. Okay. With that being said, I make a motion that we enter into closed session. Limited personnel matters as permitted under section 10-15-1, H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to hold an evaluation conference with the superintendent to meet and discuss progress made on goal attainment and provide feedback on overall performance as set out in board policy CBI. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call to enter into closed session?
Ms. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Lira?
Aye.
Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Ms. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Okay, that vote was unanimous, folks. We are now in closed session. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Enjoy your winter vacation